after grasping and groping for material things until he has almost lost his eternal soul, man is beginning to awaken and to realize that Jesus knows what he is talking about when he says, "Beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth." Jesus went about over the Holy Land 2,000 years ago asking people a question which has never been successfully answered from that day to this. Said he to the people, "What shall a man give in exchange for his soul? Or what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul?" He is saying to us in so many words, take the world if you can, place it upon a pair of scales, weigh it in its entire value, its silver and gold, its glory, honor, and power. Take the whole thing and weigh it on a pair of scales. See what it weighs. Then take it off. And then take your own soul. Just one soul. Not 2, not 10, not 100, nor 1,000,000, but one soul. And place it upon the same pair of scales. And weigh it. And then Christ says to you, you answer the question, which is greater? And what should you profit if you should gain the whole world and lose your own soul? Why is a man's life so valuable? Why is a human being worth so much? Why is it difficult for us to estimate his wealth, his spiritual wealth, his value? First of all, man is not an animal. He cannot be satisfied with the three basic urges of animals: food, rest, and sex. For when man has 3 meals a day, he slept his 8 hours of sleep, and he has his companion satisfying his procreative urges. Once he's done that, he can still be the most miserable, wretched creature God ever made. Man has a body, but he's not physical. A mind, but he's not mental. He is a living spirit. Now, because we are spiritual beings, an immortal soul, we are capable of the most powerful emotions. And they sweep our soul, mind, and body as the winds sweep across the earth. We are capable of ascending into the highest heaven or of descending into the lowest hell. We are capable of the bitterest tears or the sweetest smile, the deepest sorrow or the highest joy. Yes, we're capable of having peace of soul or being so upset in our souls we feel like a storm or a fire is raging in our breasts. We are spiritual beings. What is a man's life worth? Judas Iscariot says a man's life is worth 30 pieces of silver. No more, no less. What does God say a man's life is worth? Now, Christ said, what should it profit you if you gained the whole world and lost your own soul? What does God say? God says a man's life is worth more than this world. Judas Iscariot said a man's life worth 30 pieces of silver. The rich man said much goods. The devil says, I will give you the world if you'll give me your soul. But God says your life is worth more than this world. Now, for instance, if you were capable of entertaining an offer of the whole world, and you agreed to it and you received the whole world, the question Christ asked you is, what are you profited? Suppose that you were able to gain the whole world, all the gold and silver and diamonds, all the clothes and houses and lands, all the cars and all the food and all the everything. Suppose you had it all. Christ asked you the question, what are you profited? In other words, if you owned all the clothes in the world, you can only wear one suit or one dress at a time. If you owned all of the houses, you can only live in one house at a time. If you owned all the food, you can only eat one meal at a time or you'll get sick. And there are people in the world who would give half their money if they could eat what they want to eat, and they can't. they have ulcers, they have stomach trouble. And there's more of that among the rich than there is among the poor. Really, the poor people can't afford to have stomach trouble too much. If you owned it all, what would you profit? What would you profit if you became incurably ill, either in body or mind? If suddenly you developed incurable cancer, you were stricken with polio, you developed arthritis, cataracts, you began to lose your hearing, something happened inside your mind, what is the world worth to you? I had a man to send a telephone call in that his little child was at the point of death, many hundreds of miles away. If I would catch a plane and leave my crusade and come to that bed, he would write a check and sign it, leave the amount open that I could fill in the amount. And he said, I'm a wealthy man. In the amount, Mr. Roberts. Of course, I couldn't go anyway, but then he made it impossible. Because if I charged for my prayers, I would lose all the power of God I ever had in my life. And I've never received a private gift from the day I began praying, and I do not propose to at this time. And there he was. What was the world worth to him? What's it worth? What's it worth when one of your loved ones, your dear one, suddenly has the mind to snap? Some horrible disease comes. What's it worth to Oral Roberts if something happens to his family? What's the world worth? That's the question I'm asking. That's what Christ means. What is it worth if you gain it all and you lose? Suppose not only your soul, or suppose it was not your soul, just your body. And the body cannot be compared in value to one's soul. And if we lose our body alone, not counting our soul, what's it worth? 1949, I had a vision of the worth of the soul. We have asked the question, what is the soul worth? What is the life worth? I hope I'll be able to tell you, so you'll never forget it as long as you live. God came to me, and he said, Oral Roberts, how many sons have you? I said, 2, Lord, Ronald David and Richard Lee. What would you do, he said, if I asked you to give one of your sons to die on the cross for the sins of the world? I've never answered that question. I don't know how. I don't know what I would say. And as I sat there, I was just shaking. God said, Oral Roberts, I asked you what you would do if I asked for one of your sons to die on the cross for the sins of the world. He said, but I have only one son, and I gave him. He said, you want to know the worth of a soul? It's worth my son Jesus. And I said, no. No, God. No soul is worth Jesus. I certainly am not. He said, you have no right. You have no right to make that statement. He said, the price I paid for the soul of a man is my son Jesus. I say that he's worth it. Not just one of this nation, of that nation, but the soul of any human. Black, white, red, yellow, or brown. If there had been only one soul to be saved, I would have given my son Jesus. And that's what we're worth. I say to you that this is your hour. This is your hour to give your life to Christ. This is your hour to give your life to Christ. This is it.